right? And because addiction is growing so rapidly, the most rapidly growing malaise in the Western world,
yeah.
and clearly in the Eastern world as well, although not as reported, it means that the addict is the archetype teacher who's pierced the veil of illusion and understands the true nature of reality.
And the nature of suffering.
And the nature of suffering. And so blessed are the addicts, right, who come as our teachers, and we humbly sit, right, as their students, as we all access the voice of the addict within us and seek its transformation, its healing, its evolution, its transmutation.
Beautiful transmutation, exactly. And that ties very much into, in the integral recovery model, one of the essential things that we say is that once you've dealt with the upper right, brain chemistry, physical, the very essential foundational physical part, that you have to go back and deal with the causative factors that started you using in the first place.
Right.
And sometimes that's just bad brain chemistry. You just got bad genetic cards dealt with you through your ancestors, your parents, whatever. And the other one often is in working with my students is trauma, unresolved trauma, pain and stuff that's happened in the past that is carried there and just sits there in the basement and causes, when it's pushed aside, when it's pushed into the shadow, causes so much suffering, causes so much chemical imbalance and depression that one of the initial reasons that the addict begins to use is because you take that first drink, you take that first puff, that first line, first injection, and immediately it's nirvana. I mean, all the suffering is gone temporarily. And so if we don't get back to the roots that you were talking about, that suffering, and deal with that as we get, some weeks into the treatment, once we've got the body and the brain chemistry stabilized and you start feeling like a human being again, then you can start doing that work. Because if you don't do that depth work, if you don't go into the shadow, if you don't go into that darkness and reclaim that and do that transmutation, and what we found through these practices of going and sitting in openness and awareness, and as we're ready, the soul or the spirit is faithful to bring these things up, and by being with them and being present with them and not listening to all the mental static or the messages that come along when the pain starts to emerge, but just watching it with that witness, that we can actually, and I've experienced this many times, and I was sitting on a lot of pain and a lot of suffering myself, is this darkness actually transmutes into a higher energy.